I want to turn to another story, and I'll begin with our own story a little bit. As I said, Future 500, we end up working with many companies on many different types of issues. And a couple of years ago, we were approached by a couple of major brand name companies who had Greenpeace and Rainforest Action Network protesters either descending from their building, hanging banners, or doing various engagements. And they came to us and they said, well, it apparently has to do with this timber that we're getting, or our suppliers or our licensees are getting from the rainforest in Indonesia. We need to understand this. And so we helped them to develop, similarly, a paper procurement policies that delisted a few companies, including the company of this nice woman right here from APP. Now, APP responded to that pressure by making some quite dramatic changes in their supply chain on February 5th of 2013, which is now a date that I think is recognized and talked about within the activist community as a turning point. And I wonder if we can hear from Aida and from Amy the process by which Greenpeace and APP became not combatants in this, but collaborators to some degree, and with Greenpeace serving as kind of a check, a watchdog, and validator of the process. Can either of you tell a little bit about that story?
I think the process started when we stopped demonizing Greenpeace, and Greenpeace stopped demonizing us, and we started talking to each other as human beings. It started probably in 2012, early 2012. And it also started when we start working with the Forest Trust, where they play the role as the mediator or translator between the two species. Because Greenpeace is speaking Greenpeace language and APP is speaking in corporate language. There are areas that we didn't understand. That's the role where the Forest Trust play to translate the meaning of deforestation. What is zero deforestation? What is the expected actions that our stakeholders want us to do? And that conversation and discussions with Greenpeace, the Forest Trust, and a number of other NGOs is what led us to come up with the forest conservation policy, or is a zero deforestation policy. Maybe I need to explain a little bit more what is zero deforestation, because all of you, I mean, Dean and Tansei already explained, and I'm sure you're all aware what FSC is. But what is zero deforestation? Is it another certification, or what is it? So zero deforestation is a new initiative that is going to be our new business as usual in Indonesia. Ours is in Asia Pulp Paper, because no other players have adopted that yet from pulp and paper industry. So it's our new business as usual, and it's zero deforestation is beyond turning off chainsaw, it's beyond turning off bulldozers from converting or cutting down natural forests. It's beyond that. It's about identifying forest and peatland, because peat is very important, is as important as forest. So identifying forest and peatland and how to protect the identified forest and peatland and enhance the values. So it's beyond turning off chainsaw. And it's also about respecting community rights. It's about implementation of free and prior informed consent. It's about social mapping. It's about resolving conflicts, because in my country, Indonesia, and it's also a lot of it, other developing countries, social conflicts is very common. So that's what zero deforestation, and we also use a multi-stakeholder and landscape approach in implementing zero deforestation. So when we identify the forest, we need to identify not only the forest in our concessions, but also identify the forest in the surrounding areas and how to enhance the values.
So Amy, what's been your experience as you shifted from being a campaigner, really campaigning against companies like APP and April and others, to more collaborating with the companies that are making the change?
I hope you all in the room can appreciate how historic it is that, a company like APP, whose entire business model is predicated on encroaching into the forest and creating pulp and paper, right, cutting down trees, can actually sit up here and completely change the way that they're doing business in Indonesia. It wasn't an easy, thank you. So Greenpeace has a goal globally of reaching a world where deforestation doesn't exist. And so at a time, the best way to achieve that was through a very conflict-laden campaign against APP and against the customers that were buying paper from APP. So a number of consumer-facing companies, some that are in the room, were the target of Greenpeace campaigns. In the end, dozens and dozens of companies canceled contracts with APP. And in the end, we arrived at February 5th, 2013, when we really did turn over a new leaf with this company, and what was best for the forest became not this conflict, but actually became collaboration. So, going from a campaigner where I orchestrated big campaign events to actually collaborating with APP, it really is a historic opportunity to have a company like theirs actually change the way they do business on the ground in Indonesia. So we all have a vested interest in seeing them succeed. Not all companies in Indonesia are the same, right, as APP. She mentioned that no other pulp and paper company has made a similar commitment, right? So there's other companies that are actively destroying the rainforest. April is just one of them, Bill mentioned. Asia Pacific Resources International Limited, actively destroying the rainforest today to sell you all paper. Right? If you saw the protests out on the boat against 3M, or out when you were coming into the conference center, that's all about 3M sourcing from Asia Pacific Resources International Limited, right? So we really do have a vested interest in having APP's new model really succeed so that we can convince other companies that are still relying on rainforest destruction to change the way that they do business.
Now, a lot of the groups, a lot of the companies that we work with, we're involved in a battle where they may have been attacked by a Greenpeace or a similar group. And they say, well, we'll engage with a lot of folks, but Greenpeace or these groups, their interests and our interests are fundamentally at odds. What they're demanding is fundamentally undoable, impossible. We can't be done, therefore there's no reason to engage with them. I'd like to hear from Aida. First of all, what did you think of Greenpeace's initial demand set? Did you think it was reasonable, realistic? Did you think it was...
Totally crazy.
But if a company like APP can do it, anybody can, right? That should be the takeaway.
I mean, literally, it was we couldn't understand the demands, and we thought that Greenpeace was out there to destroy our industry, to destroy pulp and paper industry in Indonesia. That was our initial thoughts a couple of years ago. But again, somebody like the Forest Trust who could actually translate those requirements or new initiatives really help us a lot to understand what it actually means. And a different agenda, I mean, I don't want to talk about other NGOs, but we were so confrontational with Greenpeace, but working with them inside, it really opened our eyes, and not just me, but also our shareholders as well, because we do have shared value, we do have common agendas. Mm-hmm. So that's what we are focusing on and try to move forward together.
Greenpeace likes to say that we don't have any permanent friends or permanent enemies. So, at a time, APP was about as bad as it got. And today, it's very different. And so we're happy to take on this new role with APP. It's probably important to note that, Greenpeace doesn't take one dime from companies like APP, any company or governments. All of our work really is about our mission and the forest. We never signed a formal agreement with APP. We don't have an MOU, right? It really was about establishing the trust between the two entities and working together for something that we both had interest in achieving. And that's an important distinction.
Right.